welcome to Teaching Tip Tuesday. Ooh, and this light is too close. Let me fix it. Yeah, it's shining right on my face. So welcome to Teaching Tip Tuesday. My name is Michelle, aka the Ignited Teacher. And what I do on Teaching Tip Tuesday is I help you, if you're a math teacher, to close learning gaps by providing you with evidence and research-based instructional strategies that can be implemented in your classroom as early as the very next day. And welcome, and thank you for tuning in live or on the replay. So, if you are new here, or if you tune in every Teaching Tip Tuesday, if you're watching on the replay, definitely drop a link in the chat to let me know where you are watching from or watching the replay from. If you have any questions, put those in the chat as well. So, if you're new and if you've never heard this before, if you cannot catch me live, because I know teachers, we're busy, we have other things to do, and you just can't catch me live at 7:30, you have other things to do, you can always catch me on my YouTube channel at The Ignited Teacher. All you have to do is do a search. I'm the only Ignited Teacher for right now, and you can do a search, The Ignited Teacher, and find my YouTube channel and like this actual live stream. And don't forget to hit that bell notification button so that you'll be notified for when I upload new videos or when I go live, just like I am tonight for Teaching Tip Tuesday. So here are some upcoming episodes for Teaching Tip Tuesday. Some February topics: learning progressions, which we'll be talking about today, your spiraling concepts, and some other great topics that we'll be covering until the end of the school year. And when I say end of the school year, I don't say that lightly, because I cannot wait until this school year is over. And that's been the transparent Michelle, and I am not going to sugarcoat it. This school year has been hell. So I am ready to get this school year in the books. I'm really tired of having conversations with administration about what the children can handle. I'm just tired of the conversations and people acting as if this is business as usual. So I was happy to come on tonight to do something that makes me happy, to really just not even think about those conversations and the unrealistic conversations that we're having, from what I understand, across the country about this standardized testing and people wanting things like yesterday. It doesn't work like that. And, we have to do what's best for students. And I'm going to always do what's best for my kids and advocate for the children, not for some standardized tests. And I'm not going to bulldoze content and make my students frustrated because somebody wants a result that is really unattainable. Let's just start there. So that's my little soapbox. I'm going to get off of it. And that's just something I'm dealing with at work right now. So let's go ahead and hop into our topic tonight. So we're talking about learning progressions, and a lot of people, especially math intervention, a lot of times I hear from teachers all of the time to say, I don't get any support with intervention, and I asked this question in my free Facebook group, and I asked, well, how much support do you receive from, your math specialist, math coach, or whatever for intervention? And one lady responded, what math coach? What specialist? So a lot of teachers are out here getting no support and no advice for interventions. And one of the things that learning progressions do, they create a roadmap of how learning should take place. And it's from a tier 1 perspective. And I want to put that out there. This is not intervention. The learning progression is a tier 1 instructional path. But what we do when we use learning progressions for math intervention, we use them in a way where it helps us create or find a starting point, and it tells us how to get to where we need to go. Now, you might be saying, well, that's the vertical alignment. The vertical alignment is just a vertical alignment of skills. What a learning progression does, it actually shows what mastery looks like and how that learning should take place and what should be used for that learning. So I'm going to hop into some of Graham Fletcher's learning progression. If you're not familiar, he doesn't have very many videos on YouTube. And because I'm not recreating a progression, I use his to explain what a progression looks like. And because I'm hosting my division intervention workshop this Saturday, if you haven't registered, you need to, because registration closes in 1 day. We are going to look at a video and just a clip of his video, and let me get that going.
Of all the things that students must learn by the time they leave elementary school, division might be one of the toughest. So here we look to tackle the progression of division, and it starts in 3rd grade. So take this for example, 12 divided by 4. Let's see what happens. Well, we have 2 completely different models. And what this says is that the context, the story of the problem, plays a large part in developing students' conceptual understanding. In one, we have 12 bears with 4 in each group, which gives us 3 groups, and 12 bears shared with 4 friends, which leaves us 3 with each group. One model, well, that's measurement.
All right, so he starts in 3rd grade. So that's where the vertical alignment begins. Now, division is in, like, from 3rd grade on, it's in every strand of mathematics from 3rd grade on, especially starting with 5th grade. 5th grade is really a transition grade, especially for Texas. I've heard from some other teachers that, like, in other states, they may not do the standard algorithm until 6th grade. But a lot of times, like in Texas, they just pour it on. We have the worst vertical alignment, if you want to call it a vertical alignment, that I've ever seen in my career. It doesn't make sense. There's too much at certain grade levels, but that's neither here nor there. So the progression, as you can see, it tells what it looks like, okay? It shows how many bears are in group, and it gives you an example of what that learning looks like. In essence, giving you what mastery should look like and what children should be able to do. So I'm going to speed it up some, and we're going to go from there to the
And in
quotient.
order to place it in each row, they need to decompose it, make a fair trade. So you can see that when we take 72 and we divide it into 3 rows, we have 24 in each row. And then we want to make that connection from the concrete with the base 10 blocks to the representation. And how do we record our representation in a written expression? And some students might begin to collectively group their 10s, and that's where the 20 came from. The best part about this is that students are making a connection back to multiplication by using the distributive property, and they're seeing it visually. In 4th grade, yeah, that's right, all that understanding we just saw should have been happening in 3rd grade.
So, as you can see, 3rd grade packs it a punch when it comes to division. It's really a lot. So as he goes on, he goes into 4th grade, and then as you can see, children start to move from the concrete to the abstract. You see more numbers, and then he gets to
5th grade. They
5th
extend
grade.
this understanding that they've built conceptually from 3rd and 4th grade. Only this time, they deal with 4-digit dividends and 2-digit divisors. The big piece here is that students deal with numbers and equations where they'll only have whole number quotients. All that means is that the decimal shouldn't be in the answer, but it can be in the dividend, and we can have a decimal in the divisor.
Now, for the state of Texas, we do all of this. We have decimals in the answer. We just have it all. So if I'm not mistaken, he doesn't go, yes, he does. He goes to 6th grade, which, like I said, in Texas, we teach the standard algorithm in 5th grade. So it just depends on what state you're in, but they get the algorithm in 5th grade.
Students encounter the term standard algorithm, and all that really means is a series of repeated steps. So if students have used this same understanding of partial quotients from 3rd grade, this is a standard algorithm. So let's see what a student might do. Well, in 8,425, I want to remove 200 groups of 32, and then 60 groups of 32, and 3 groups of 32. Let's look what it looks like with the standard algorithm. Well, 32 doesn't go into 8, but 32 goes into. What does that mean? And here we have the traditional algorithm, which many of us are familiar with. But you see how there's a connection between the two.
So what I want people to understand, I have this conversation. One lady was saying that she actually avoids the standard algorithm. And I don't know what it is with this hate on the standard algorithm. I get what people are saying. Yes, the standard algorithm is introduced too early because a lot of the kids are not ready for division. And even though it's delayed, they introduce it as a strategy in 4th grade. And in 5th, they still struggle with the standard algorithm and understanding division. And I get that. But what I want people to understand, the standard algorithm is a part of the learning progression. And it's a part of the learning period. But it's where it's placed in the curriculum, which tells you where or how soon it's supposed to be introduced. Now, do children learn at the same rate? No, that's why we have Tier 2 intervention or math intervention. So a lot of times when the students come to me in the learning progression, they are still, let me go back to where students generally are. They're definitely not there. This is where they are. A lot of my 5th graders would start here or come to me at this part in the learning progression. So a learning progression is definitely helpful when you are trying to close gaps because, first of all, it gives you a starting point. My kids were still grouping. And my goal was to move them from the grouping to the standard algorithm. Now, this is tier 1. It is tier 1 instruction. So, what I want you all to understand is that tier 1 instruction is not the same instruction for your students that are struggling. It's just not. They struggle with different things inside of that progression. So as you put a progression together, say for instance, for me, I do a small group and I put a long range plan. My long range plan, which are 2-week cycles for intervention, encompasses a progression. So right now I am teaching solving equations. My kids struggle with solving equations. Now, where they are in the progression is not at 3rd grade, because obviously they've been doing equations for a very long time, not really knowing it. So I have had to start with properties of inequalities and then taking them through the progression. We then go from the abstract to from the concrete to the abstract, which is that balance, and actually putting numbers in place. Then we add combining like terms. We go from 1-step to 2-step problems. Then we add like terms. Then we add another element to it, which is the distributive property. Then we add brackets. So we build out this equation, and that's the progression of learning for the students. And a lot of teachers really, especially with intervention, don't take the time to actually say, okay, this is where the kids are, what's next, and what does that mastery look like? And that's what a learning progression will help you with. It helps you with finding a starting point and finding where the children are. Okay, it does. So you're probably saying, well, what is response to intervention? And response to intervention is, let me pull it up. This, in a nutshell, it is tier 1. Now, to be honest with you and be fair, this is in a perfect world. This is in a perfect world, but it doesn't, it doesn't apply to my school, because my school has more kids at tier 2 and tier 3 than they do at tier 1. This is probably the 1 to 5% is probably my tier 1 kids. So 1 to 5% out of, I have 4 groups for intervention. Out of 4 groups, 3 of them are below grade level. So your core instruction is your tier 1 instruction. But here's where this learning progression will fall. It will fall into the strategic intervention. And learning progressions are strategic. Where are you going to start? Where do they need to go? For example, if you're a 4th grade teacher, you're not going to go all the way to the standard algorithm. What you're going to do is focus on where they are and getting them to understand those strategies based on what your vertical alignment says or horizontal alignment for your actual grade level. That's what this is. And that's where that RTI will fall at. That learning progression will fall. Now, I'm going to give you some examples of when you use a progression, what happens to your data. And this is data from when I taught 5th grade. I haven't taught 5th grade in, I want to say it's been 3 years. So this was my data at the beginning of the year, and it's real data, as you can see. And I tried to make sure, because I didn't want people to say, well, that's not, she made that up. No, this is what one of my lowest class was. And I got the lowest because I wanted you all to see that I had over half the kids were red. You see these that's 4 little people and 2 little yellow people. Well, this was in, I think, September. When I got the kids, I had 19 kids. There were 21% of the kids that were at or above benchmark. I had 0 kids on watch, which is blue. I had 11%, which is these 2 yellow. They were my intervention kids, and everybody else, 68% were urgent intervention. Well, what I did, like I said, I that same process that I teach in my math intervention, I actually teach it in my Math Intervention Academy. That process, creating a learning progression long-range plan, looking at the vertical alignment, where the children are, where they need to go, and implementing those 2-week cycles. Well, MOI, which is middle of the year, this is what my data looked like. My data actually moved. So we had one person who was on watch. And that happens because some of the kids, they bounce around. But then I had 38% of my kids were now intervention kids. So they moved from the 11%, which were intervention, to 38. So that's 27% that moved to the yellow. Then I decreased my red by 38%. But here's what I want you to look at. Look how short my intervention, my reds were here. And look at the MOI. They were growing. And what intervention is about, it's about growth over time. It is not something that you're going to get tomorrow. And that's what I was ranting about at the beginning of this live stream, is that I'm tired of having conversations about tier 2 and tier 3 kids and people wanting results like yesterday. It doesn't work like that. They're not tier 1 children. And growth happens over time. If you have a plan that you implement, and which I do, the kids will grow. And my children are growing. Just like my 5th graders, my 8th graders are growing. Even my Algebra 1 kids are growing because they weren't ready for algebra when I got them. So to ask teachers like myself, or to ask children for something that they don't have the capacity to give, my students are working at their level. That's where they are. And will they get to where they need to be at the end of the year? That still remains to be seen. That story, end of the story, has not been written. But I know that they are working to their ability, and I know that their data is growing, just like my 5th graders and countless other classes that I have taught over the 21 years of my career. So here are some things to consider when you all are putting learning progressions. You have to know your students. Where are the kids starting? And I progress monitor my kids every 2 weeks. I do, because I need to see where they are. We have access to Renaissance. If you can't progress monitor them, look at one of the videos when I talk about things that you can use for progress monitoring. Also consider attendance and all those other things for students that struggle. A lot of our kids that are math intervention kids are not kids that have the greatest attendance, and that's just the bottom line. Motivation. Can't do, won't do. I teach this all in my Math and Intervention Academy. Can you do it? Yeah, maybe. But will you do it? Probably not. So, in my classroom, I have a brag board to where when my kids move colors, we actually celebrate. So consider those things as you're trying to get up and going, with the learning progressions to see where your kids are, what they need to learn, and get with a group of teachers. Don't try to do it on your own. Collaboration is key. Trust me. So if you need more support with learning progressions, you need someone to talk to. In my Math Intervention Academy, I support teachers with the math intervention process so we can grow children and close learning gaps. And if you're interested in getting on the wait list for the Math Intervention Academy, the link is in the comment section on YouTube. So that gives you a reason to hop on over there and actually click the link, subscribe to my channel, and give this live stream a thumbs up. So I want to thank you all for being a part of this Teaching Tip Tuesday. And I will see you all next week for another episode of Teaching Tip Tuesday. Don't get frustrated. I had enough frustration for you all today. Find your happy place. I was happy, as you can see. I perked up when I came on here. Do something good for yourself. Watch some TV. I'm going to go eat some sherbet, and sit on the couch and do my favorite thing, get my remote. So I'll see you all next week for another episode of Teaching Tip Tuesday. Got any questions or comments, leave them in the comment section, and have a great evening.